Growing up, my parents' constant arguments were a normal part of my daily life. It felt like there was never a moment of peace in our household. Amid this chaos, I found solace in my drawings. Drawing was my escape, my way to find a bit of quiet in a world that seemed constantly filled with noise. But nothing could have prepared me for the events that unfolded during one family picnic, a day that tested my honesty and changed everything. We were driving to a picnic, with me sitting in the back seat of our old, rickety car. My sketchbook was balanced on my knees, and my pencil moved deftly across the page. Drawing had always been my refuge from the daily tensions at home. Up front, my father, Thomas, gripped the steering wheel tightly. His knuckles were white from the pressure. Next to him, my stepmother, Denise, was in full rant mode. Her voice had that sharp, cutting tone that always made my stomach churn. Denise listed, in excruciating detail, all the ways Thomas fell short. His old, beat-up car was an embarrassment, his salary a joke, and compared to her friends' husbands, he was inferior in every possible way. I tried to shut it out, focusing intensely on my drawing. I sketched a peaceful forest, imagining myself walking through it, far away from the harsh words that filled the car. My imagination was a powerful tool, turning the noise into something distant and insignificant. "Bella, Bella." Denise's voice suddenly pierced through my concentration. I flinched, my pencil slipping and leaving an unintended mark on the page. "Yes, Mom," I replied, my heart sinking. "Tell your father what you told me this morning," Denise demanded, her eyes narrowing. I hesitated, glancing at my father, who looked weary and defeated. "I want to go to art school," I said softly. Thomas's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "So what?" he asked, genuinely puzzled. Denise's voice rose, filled with anger. "You don't have money for your wife, but you have money for your daughter's pointless hobbies?" "Why pointless? She likes to draw. What's the problem?" Thomas replied, a hint of defiance creeping into his voice. "If she were Van Gogh, we would have noticed, but this is just a waste of time." Denise spat back. I felt my cheeks burn with a mix of embarrassment and frustration. Drawing was more than a hobby. It was my lifeline. I wanted to disappear into my sketchbook, back into the forest I had drawn. In this world, there were no harsh words or crushing criticisms, only peace and understanding. Upon arriving at the picnic site, Denise and Thomas started unpacking their things, each moving with jerky, stiff motions that showed they were still upset from the argument in the car. I could feel the tension in the air, like a dark cloud hanging over us. I looked around, hoping to find something to distract myself from their icy silence. I noticed bits of trash scattered around the grassy area, cans, wrappers, and paper plates left by previous visitors. I frowned, feeling a mix of annoyance and sadness. How could people be so careless? I decided to clean it up, grabbing a plastic bag from the car. "Why are you digging through the trash, Bella?" Denise's sharp voice cut through the quiet. "You'll ruin your clothes, and we won't buy you new ones." I paused for a moment, feeling a pang of frustration, but then continued. I couldn't leave the place dirty. If everyone left their trash behind, no one could enjoy the beauty of nature. As I worked, I felt a small sense of satisfaction at making the picnic spot cleaner. Suddenly, something shiny caught my eye in the grass. I bent down and saw a wallet, partly hidden by leaves. My curiosity piqued. I picked it up and brushed off the dirt. It looked like it had been there for a while, but it was still intact. My heart quickened with excitement as I realized I might have found something important. "Look what I found. Someone lost their wallet. We need to return it," I exclaimed, running over to my parents. Thomas looked up and nodded, taking the wallet from me. He opened it and started searching for any identification or a phone number. Denise, always curious, leaned in, her eyes immediately fixating on the cash inside. Thomas found a note tucked into a pocket of the wallet with a phone number on it. "Found it," he said, pulling out his phone to call the number. As he dialed, Denise took the wallet from him, her fingers lingering on the money. Less than half an hour later, a man arrived, looking relieved and grateful. "Thank you so much. This wallet has my documents and bank cards. I thought it was gone forever." Denise handed him the wallet, but I noticed how the man's face changed when he checked inside. The money I had in here is missing, he said, confused. Denise quickly interjected, "We found it like that, without any money." Her tone was firm, but I knew better. I had seen the money before. Denise must have taken it. Feeling a surge of anger and shame, I couldn't stand to be part of the deceit. I turned and ran, tears stinging my eyes. I needed to get away, to find a place where honesty and kindness still mattered. I walked aimlessly through the forest, my feet crunching on the fallen leaves and twigs beneath me. I tried to shake off the anger and disappointment from what had happened with the wallet. As I wandered, my mind began to clear, and I started to notice the beauty around me. The forest was dense and green, with sunlight streaming through the canopy in soft, golden rays. Suddenly, I emerged from the trees and found myself facing a large mansion. The house was grand, with tall, elegant windows and ivy creeping up its walls. Despite its neglected appearance, there was something beautiful and majestic about it. I felt a sense of wonder as I approached, my eyes taking in the details of the architecture and the overgrown gardens. As I walked around the mansion, I spotted an old stone well in the front yard. Curious, I ran over to it and peered inside. The well was deep, and I could barely make out the bottom. Something shiny caught my eye, glinting in the dim light. My curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to try and retrieve it. Using the bucket tied to the well, I slowly lowered it down, trying to guide it toward the shiny object. I leaned further and further over the edge, my hand gripping the rope tightly. Suddenly, I lost my balance and tumbled headfirst into the well. The fall was short, and though I wasn't hurt, I found myself covered in dirt and a bit shaken. I sat up, checked myself for injuries, and then looked around. I quickly spotted the shiny object, a small, ornate jewelry box. I picked it up, brushing off the dirt, and examined it closely. The box was beautifully crafted, with intricate designs etched into its surface. I called out for help, but my voice echoed back at me. It was clear that no one could hear me from the bottom of the well. Determined to get out, I put the jewelry box in my backpack and began to climb. I used my feet to push against the walls and my hands to find small footholds. It was slow and difficult work, but I was determined. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I reached the top and pulled myself out, panting and covered in grime. As soon as I was out, I opened the box to see what I had found. Inside was a small bag, which I quickly opened. My eyes widened in amazement as I saw the contents. Dozens of jewels, including rings, earrings, and necklaces, all sparkling brightly. Alongside the jewels was an old, yellowed letter. I unfolded it carefully and read, "These jewels are to be given to my daughter, Rosa. I fear my older son will take everything after my death and leave nothing for his sister, so I've hidden these here. What do you have there?" Denise's voice suddenly cut through the silence, making me jump. I turned to see her standing behind me, eyes fixed on the jewelry box. "It's not ours. This box needs to be returned to its rightful owner in that mansion," I insisted, holding the box tightly to my chest. "In that mansion? Are you out of your mind? They're already rich, and we barely survive. We need this money more," Denise argued, her eyes gleaming with greed. I shook my head fiercely. "It's not ours. Dear, I promise you. If you give me the box, we'll pay for your art school," Denise coaxed, her voice softening. I hesitated, the temptation of art school tugging at my heart, but I knew what was right. With a determined look, I turned and ran toward the mansion, clutching the jewelry box tightly. I couldn't betray the trust of the letter's author or my own sense of honesty. After knocking on the heavy wooden door, I waited nervously. Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing an elderly woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Hello, dear. Can I help you?" she asked gently. "What is your name?" I asked hesitantly. The woman's eyes widened in surprise as she saw the box and letter in my hands. "My name is Rosa," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "Hi, I'm Bella," I began, holding out the jewelry box and letter. "I found this in the well outside. I think it belongs to you." Rosa was shocked and recognized the box immediately. Tears welled up in her eyes as she took the box and letter from me. This was my mother's. I've been searching for these jewels for years. Without them, we might have lost this mansion that has been in our family for generations, she exclaimed, her voice choked with gratitude. Rosa opened the letter, her hands trembling. Thank you, Bella. You don't know how much this means to me, she said, her voice filled with emotion. Is there anything I can do to repay you? I blushed and shook my head. No, ma'am. I don't need anything, I replied softly, but Rosa noticed my sketchbook peeking out of my backpack. Do you like drawing? She asked, flipping through the pages. Yes, I do, I answered shyly. Rosa smiled warmly. Remember, dear, kindness always comes back to you. You're a talented artist, and you deserve to follow your dreams. When I returned to my parents, Denise began yelling at me for giving the box back. How could you? We needed that money. But Thomas stepped in, his voice firm and unyielding. Enough, Denise. Bella did the right thing. If you can't accept that, maybe you should find a new family. Denise fell silent, stunned by Thomas's sudden assertiveness. For the first time, I saw a look of fear in her eyes. The tension eased, and we drove home with a newfound sense of peace. Despite the challenges and the deceit I faced, I held on to my honesty and integrity. Little did I know, this experience would shape my future in ways I couldn't have imagined. Rosa kept her promise and became my mentor, guiding me through the process of applying to art schools. She introduced me to her friends and colleagues in the art world, opening doors I never knew existed. Her kindness and support gave me the courage to pursue my dreams. Years later, as I stood in a gallery filled with my artwork, I thought back to that day in the forest. It was a day that began with chaos and deceit, but ended with honesty and kindness prevailing. I realized that every choice, every act of integrity had led me to this moment. And in that moment, surrounded by my art and the people who believed in me, I knew that I had found my true path.